video, we're going to be looking back at some one-step equations, and we'll have a couple basic ones. We'll also throw in some decimals. This is just reviewing some topics that you've seen from previous grades. Let's check out number one here. We've got, let's see, let's do n, you can choose any variable. I'm going to choose n to represent some number, but you can choose any variable you want. So n plus 7 equals 29. Now what you're trying to do basically is solve for what this missing piece is here. So what I teach my students is I say do the opposite of what you have next to the variables. The opposite of adding 7 will be subtracting 7. If you do it to one side of the equation, you must do it to the other side. So this part cancels out over here. So this plus 7 and minus 7 cancel. You bring the variable down. We have n equals. And then we subtract 29 minus 7, we get 22. Let's check another one like this with some subtractions under. Let's see, let's do n minus 3 to some number minus 3 equals 40. So over here, focusing on the side with the variable, do the opposite of what's next to the variable. The opposite of subtracting 3 is adding 3. Do it to one side, do it to the other side of the equation. So from here, the minus 3 and the plus 3 cancel out. You bring the n down. Equals n 40 plus 3 is 43. Let's look at these two problems again. We're just kind of throw in some decimals. Make it a little tougher here. So let's say for the next one we've got some numbers at n plus 4 and 1/10. And that's going to equal 9 and 2/10. So same steps here. Focus on the side with the variable. Do the opposite of what you see next to the variable. The opposite of adding 4 and 1/10 would be subtracting 4 and 1/10. You can do it to one side of the equation. Do it to the other side. So it cancels here. You bring the n down, put your equals. Now remember, when you subtract decimals, decimal comes straight down. 2 minus 1 is 1. 9 minus 4 gives you 5, so your answer here is 5 and 1/10. Let's check out another one that's got some decimals. Number 4, so some number n minus 2 is going to equal 7 and 6/10. So focus on the side with the variable. Opposite of subtracting 2 is adding 2. Do it to one side, do it to the other side. Now make sure you're lining up this 2 in the right spot. You have the 7 in the 1's place and the 6 in the 10's place. That 2 needs to be underneath the 7 here. So plus 2 there. So I'm going to put it underneath the 6, and that 2 is in the 1's place here. If you don't know where a decimal is located in a number, you don't see it's always located in the back of it. So from here, this cancels. Bring down the letter n. And over here, this 6, if you want to put a 0 in here with the decimal, you could. We can drop the 6 straight down. Over here, decimal comes straight down. And then 7 plus 2 gives me 9. Now we'll come back up to the top here with number 5. Now we're going to mix in some multiplying and dividing with these one-step equations. So let's say we start out with this basic one here. So 6 times the number is going to equal 18. I'm using n once again for my variable. So the opposite of multiplying by 6, the same steps we've been doing. So you focus on the side with the variable, do the opposite to get rid of it. In other words, get rid of this coefficient. Opposite of multiplying by 6 would be dividing by 6. Remember, fraction mark means division. So this cancels out here. You do it to one side with the other side. Now from here, you bring down the n. Now, technically you're doing 6 divided by 6, which is 1. So this would be 1 n, but 1 times n is just n. So that's why you just write n. And then 18 divided by 6 gives you 3 for that problem. So basic division. Let's check out one that's a little tougher. So number 6. Let's say you have 4n equals 30. So 4 times some number equals 30. Same steps. Focus on the side with the variable. And do the opposite of what you see next to the variable to get rid of this coefficient. So opposite of multiplying by 4 would be dividing by 4. That's going to cancel or give you 1. In other words, 1n. Do the one side with the other side. Here we get n equals. Now, here we've got 30 divided by 4. Now, if this was open grid response on something like EOG, you could write this in and get credit. Let's go ahead and take it a step further, though, and do our long division and get 30 divided by 4 and turn this into a mixed number and also a decimal, which kind of show you different ways you could write this here. So remember, when you have 30 divided by 4, 30 is going to go in the division house, 4 is going to be on the outside. Now, 4 goes into 30, because it can't go into 3, so 4 goes into 30, start above that little 0 there. That's going to be 7 times, which is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract, you're left with 2. So if you're somebody that wants to write it as a mixed number, you can stop here. 7 would be your whole number. The remainder down here is your numerator. And the denominator stays 4. So you get 7 and 2/4, which can be reduced to 7 and 1/2. If you wanted to keep going further here, a lot of students I know don't write it as a mixed number, they want to turn it into a decimal. So if you were to turn this into a decimal, and this is all stuff y'all know, I'm just reviewing it. You put your decimal here, annex your 0, bring it down, and if 4 goes into 20, put your decimal right up. 5 times 4 gives you 20. Okay, once again you're up with 0. So you could also have 7 and 5/10 for a possible answer. All these answers obviously would be acceptable. Let's check out some that start with division here in the original equation. So looking at number 7, let's say we have n divided by 9 equals 2. So some number divided by 9 gives you 2. So here, the opposite of dividing by 9, once again, same steps. You focus on the side of the variable. Do the opposite to get rid of those numbers next to it. So opposite of dividing by 9 will be multiplying by 9. Do it to one side with the other side. So it's divided by 9, multiply 9, cancel each other. And we have n equals 18 once you do 2 times 9. Let's check out one more problem, throwing some decimals again, just make it a little tougher. Let's say we have n divided by 5 equals 6 and 1/10. So here it's some number divided by 5, it's going to equal 6 and 1/10. So it's the opposite of dividing by 5, which is multiplying by 5. Go to one side with the other. So bring down your variable here, equals 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 6 is 30. Now remember, when you're doing multiplying decimals, you count how many digits are behind the decimals, and that's how many spaces you move over your decimal in your answer. So here you have 1 digit behind the decimal, so the answer, move over 1 space. So we get 30 and 5/10 for our final answer here. So, solving one-step equations, just a review from stuff you've seen in the past, and we'll build on this in weeks to come.